everyone. This is Dean Vaughn from the Dean Vaughn Music Podcast Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada. How you doing tonight? We have a special guest for us today. His name is Mick Clarke, the legendary blues guitarist. Mick Clarke was born and raised in London, England. He's been playing blues guitar since the age of 9, and it forever changed his life. During Mick's career, he's played with some of rock's greatest blues legends, such as Chuck Berry, Jeff Beck, Long John Baldry, The Who's John Entwistle, Roy Young, Billy Ocean, Doris Troy, Deep Purple's John Lord, Tony Ashton, Hudson Ford Band, Wings, Howie Casey, Foreigners' Dennis Elliott, the Les Humphreys Singers, Davies Pattison, John Lawton, and many more. Mick earned a gold album for his work on Long John Baldry's Out. And that album was recorded in 1980. Let's bring in Mick Clarke. He's waiting in the green room. Hopefully they're taking good care of him in there. And we'll see what he's up to now. Okay, so let's bring him on in here. There he is, the legendary blues guitar player, Mick Clarke. How you doing, Mick?
I'm doing good, Dean. How are you?
Good, man. You know, I've been wanting to talk to you for the longest time, ever since Lois told me about you from your partner was talking about you, and I said, we got to do an interview with Mick, man. You know, he's played with all these legendary guitar players, plus yourself. You're a songwriter, musician, and I know you were raised in London, England, and you started at the age of 9. Is that still correct?
Yeah. I picked up a guitar at 9. My brother bought me the guitar.
Okay.
And we had a fight about a year later, and he broke it in half over my head.
Okay.
So I didn't get to play that very much, but a school friend of mine sadly passed away from leukemia.
Okay.
And he had a really nice Hofner guitar.
Okay.
And about a year after he passed away, my friend, his family asked me if I wanted to buy the guitar because they knew I liked to play guitar. So my grandma lent me some money, and I never paid her back. But I still have that guitar hanging on my wall.
Now, what was the brand of that guitar?
It was a Hofner.
A Hofner.
It was called a Hofner Colorama too. It was 1959.
Well, I see that you also play a Fender Stratocaster, and a Telecaster, and a vintage Schecter Stratocaster. Now, I haven't seen a Schecter. What's that?
Yeah, it's a beautiful guitar. I got it right here actually. It's quite a rare bird. It's all Koa.
Oh, nice.
And every bit of metal on it is brass, and it's original by Mr. Schecter himself built it.
Nice.
And it's quite a rare one. It's not like the Korean Schecters, it's the American-made Schecter.
What year is that guitar?
I bought this in Los Angeles in 1979, I think.
79.
Yeah.
That's when they made guitars really good.
It's a really nice one, yeah.
It's a beautiful guitar. Now you also have a Gibson Les Paul and a Gibson 335 electric.
Yeah, I got 2 Les Pauls. I got a 335, and the 335 is really my favorite guitar to play. It's a beautiful guitar. Back when I was a kid, I had a 1963 Gibson 335, and I sold it for almost nothing. And now it's probably worth about 25 grand.
63 was a good year.
This is my baby.
Oh, nice. That's the one I want.
The cherry red 335, and it's this is a 2006, which was a really good year for Gibson and their guitars. This is a flame cherry, and it's a beautiful guitar. It's actually better than my 1963. It's a lot better.
And that'd be the year I was born, 1963.
You're a young kid.
Yeah, I'm still a young kid. So I don't feel like it sometimes. But so you've been playing pretty much your entire life. Now, I have some notes, but I'll let you go kind of tell me how you got started and what made you drop into the blues genre, which I love the blues, by the way.
Yeah.
And how did you start off? Did you start off in the blues, or what kind of music were you playing?
Yeah, my eldest brother, who's passed on now, he was heavily into Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard,
Okay.
Elvis, Bill Haley and the Comets, all those rock and rollers.
Right.
And from that, we started looking into where did these guys come from? Where did they get that sound from?
Right.
And my other brother, who's still alive in England, he started listening to the blues, and he basically turned me on to the blues. I started listening to that stuff, and I mean, that got me. And I was walking down my street one day. I was probably about 9 years old, and I heard a real hardcore blues song coming out of somebody's house. They were using the finger vibrato. It was probably B.B. King.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my whole world changed at that moment. I was like, I got to learn how to do that,
Well, B.B. King's not a bad person to follow. Now, you've played with quite a few musicians. I could drop names all day long, but give me the first big player you got to play with, in your career. Who really impressed
Well,
you?
I was very, very fortunate. I bumped into a lot of people when I was just a young kid, and we, back in those days, not to sound corny, but London, even though it's a very large city, the music business, it was kind of small. Everybody kind of knew everybody.
Sure.
And so if you were serious about wanting to play and you were putting yourself out there, you were eventually going to bump into people that knew other people. And
Right.
eventually you just start meeting these people that are connected. And before you know it, if you're serious and you push hard enough, you get connected. So when I was about 18, I started playing with an American musician named Freddie Mac.
Okay.
He was an ex-professional boxer.
Oh, okay.
And he was hardcore into Motown and all that stuff, and he wore like a silver lame suit. And I was his guitar player for about probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It felt like forever back then, but it was probably only 2 or 3 years, But our time flies when you get older.
Absolutely.
So through his band, he knew everybody. So we used to play the United States Air Force bases all over England.
Right.
And he was well connected with all those guys.
Okay.
So I would play a gig with him on like a Friday night, and then on a Saturday night I'd do another gig with him, and it would be a completely different group of musicians. He played with whoever was available.
Gotcha.
So I met Carl Douglas, if you've ever heard of Carl Douglas. If you haven't heard of Carl Douglas, you've heard of the song Kung Fu Fighting.
Okay.
Carl
Everybody
wrote and
was
recorded that song. Yeah. And he was one of our singers in the band. He was always like one of our singers. He's a great guy.
Right.
And of course, he went on to get rich and famous with that song, and he never looked back, I mean, he retired on that song.
That's
cool.
That's amazing. We can retire on one big hit like that.
That's right.
That was a
So-
huge song.
We met so many musicians, and that's how I started getting connections and joined my first professional band, which was the Roy Young Band.
Okay.
And the Roy Young Band was not very well known in the United States, but very popular and very big in the United Kingdom and Germany and all over Europe, actually. Roy used to play with the Beatles before they were famous.
Okay.
And if you go to royyoung.com, you'll see photographs of him on stage with the Beatles when nobody knew who they were, when Pete Best was playing.
Right.
So-
Right. Yeah, Roy Young.
Roy knew everybody. Everybody. When we played in England, if we played Birmingham, Led Zeppelin would come and see us play because they loved Roy.
Okay.
So I
That's
got
awesome.
to meet all those guys, and Deep Purple would come and see us play. all those bands, they all loved Roy.
Mm.
So they would come and see us play, and I got to hook up with all of these guys, you know, and it was quite an amazing scene back then. This was the early 70s.
Yeah, yeah. Can you imagine having them in the audience? You know, Led Zeppelin.
It was a trip.
And it also says here Billy Ocean. You did some work with Billy Ocean.
Yeah, well, Billy Ocean, before he was named Billy Ocean, his real name is Les Charles.
Okay, okay.
And when I was probably about 20, 21, I played in a pub band in London called the Shades of Midnight.
Shades of Midnight.
And they're still going. They're still going strong in England even now. You know, they play all these 60s shows in England. And of course, they're all my age. They're all in their 70s, you know. And so we lost our singer one day, and this real nice kid came in, and he goes, "Yeah, my name's Les," and he did an audition for us. His voice was absolutely fantastic, and we're like, "Hey man, you got the gig," you know. And right about the time that the Shades of Midnight went through one of their breakups, a record company got interested in us because of Les's voice. The band broke up, and they signed Les, changed his name to Billy Ocean, and the rest is history.
Oh my God.
He had a string of hits in the 80s. He did really well, you know.
Oh, Billy Ocean was awesome. You know, and
He's still touring.
He's still out there now.
He's still touring. I think he's on the east coast of the US right now touring.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So many musicians are still out there playing, you know, right along
Oh yeah.
the Rolling Stones and those. You know, the 70s don't mean anything anymore, you know.
Not anymore.
Everybody's out playing. It's like the 70s is the new 60 or something. Or
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But I got the opportunity to meet. It was John Entwistle down in Hollywood. I was playing at a club down there. And
Yeah.
I think I was playing. I went down to the Rainbow, and Bill Gazzari's was a good friend of mine. And
Yeah.
we were the house band at Gazzari's for like 10 years, you know, forever. And he introduced me to John Entwistle. And I only got to meet him just briefly, but maybe you could tell me a little bit more about maybe meeting him and playing with him.
Well, yeah. It was very short-lived with John, and the reason why, I'll tell you the whole story.
Okay.
There was a music paper in England at the time called the Melody Maker,
Okay.
and they had a classified section for musicians wanted. And so I saw this ad in the Melody Maker, and it said, "Guitarist wanted for name band." And I was like, "Well, this sounds kind of cool."
Right.
And this would have been in it was early 1974, because the Roy Young band had broken up, and I was trying to get a gig, and I played with a few people, you know. And so I went to an audition, and it was in Chelsea, and it was at the theater where the Rocky Horror Picture Show was being played live, you know, live on stage.
Yeah.
And so I went to the theater, and there was like probably about 200 guitarists all lined up. It turns out and I said, "Well, who is this band?" They go, "Well, it's John Entwistle's band." I said, "Oh, cool." So I was there like waiting for several hours, and I finally got on stage, played a few songs, and John goes, "Hey man, I think you got the gig." It blew my mind. I was like, "Are you kidding?" There was still a bunch of guys. And he goes, "No, I think you got the gig." And he said, "Well, we'll let you know. We'll give you a call." I said, "Okay." A couple of days later, I got the call, and he said, "Hey Mick, it's John. You got the gig, man."
That's
I'm
awesome.
like,
Wow.
"That's fantastic." I was like totally dumbfounded. You know, I never thought I'd get it, because there were so many guitar players, and they were all good. They were all really good. But something about me he liked.
Well, you probably have the whole package, you know. He's probably looking at the look and the guitar playing, and you know, you're a good-looking guy. And now was
I was
John?
way better looking back then.
Now was John playing with the Who at all at the Dalton?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, they weren't doing a lot of shows, but he had a band, and his band at the original band that he had was called John Entwistle's Rigor Mortis.
Okay.
And then he changed it to John Entwistle's Ox, because his nickname was the Ox.
Okay.
Okay. So, cut a long story short, I joined the band, and we did a few rehearsals at his house. And he had this really neat house with suits of armor everywhere and a winding staircase. and you would never know it was his house because it was just on a suburban street. You know, you never would have guessed.
Yeah.
So we go in there, and it was like two houses that he'd knocked all the middle walls out and made it into one big house. It was just a trip. But I talked to his manager, and his manager offered me money, and the money was crap. It was really low money, and I was like, wow, I would have expected more because we were going to do a European tour and then a US tour.
Yeah.
But the money was like really, really poor. And at the same time, I got a call from a band in Germany called the Les Humphreys Singers, which was a really huge band in Europe. Nobody knew about them in the United States, and they were almost unknown in England.
Right.
But one of my band members from the Roy Young band was actually in the band, and he said, Mick, you got to do this gig. It pays incredible money. And of course, I was broke. I was a young guy. I was broke. And I did the audition for Les Humphreys Singers. I got the gig. And the money, literally, I made more in one night than I made in a whole week with John Atkinson band.
Wow.
So I called John's manager and I said, hey, you know what? I've got a really good paying gig in Germany with Les Humphreys Singers. And I can't pass it up. The money's just too good. And he's like, well, we're bummed, but okay, man, we respect that. And next thing I knew, I'm on a plane to Hamburg, and I did a 90-day tour through Germany, and
Nice.
we went to Yugoslavia, we went to several different countries, Switzerland, all over the place, you know. Played in East Berlin, West Berlin. It was trippy.
What a great experience.
It was a great experience, yeah.
And now Jeff Beck, I'm looking over some notes here. I love Jeff Beck. I had a bass player that just that was his mentor. What'd you do with Jeff Beck?
Well, it all goes back to Roy Young.
Okay.
Because Jeff loved Roy Young. Like I told you, all of those musicians, they loved Roy. See, Roy goes back. Roy he passed away a few years ago, sadly. But Roy had a kind of a reputation as being England's answer to Little Richard.
Okay.
And he was that kind of a player. He played that honky-tonk style, and he had a real screaming. If you look up Roy and listen to his recordings, you'll know exactly what he sounded like. And he had that sound, you know? So everybody loved Roy, and they looked up to him because he was a generation above the Jeff Becks and the Deep Purples and the Led Zeppelin guys, all that. He was about 10 years older than those guys. So Jeff used to come and see us play when we played in London. And we were making an album in Kent, which is south of London.
Okay.
And Jeff happened to live literally about a mile and a half from the studios.
Gotcha.
So whenever we were in the studio, Jeff would come by. Oh yeah, that's my old band, the Holy Mackerel Band.
Holy Mackerel.
The guy on the left with his hands like this with the long hair, that's Dennis Elliott.
Oh, that's Dennis Elliott. Okay.
From Foreigner, yeah.
All right, there he is.
Yeah.
I thought I recognized him. Pretty cool shot, man. It's just, you know.
It's a good picture, yeah. The singer is the guy next to Dennis. His name is Terry Clarke. We called him Nobby Clarke.
Okay.
And he's a great singer. And eventually I'm going to get to the story about another band called Orangutan, but I'm going to keep to the Jeff Beck thing for a minute.
Okay.
So Jeff used to come by the studio all the time where we were recording. And Roy talked him into playing with me on some of the tracks.
Okay.
So I got to I got him to play my 12-string guitar on one of the songs that we recorded.
Love the 12-string.
And and then he let me use his equipment on some of the guitar solos for some of the recordings. But unfortunately, that album was never released. Unfortunately, but I've got some of the tracks on my website, mickclarke.net, and some of those tracks with Jeff playing on my 12-string, I've got that on that website.
I did listen to a few tracks. Good playing on there.
Yeah.
I didn't have the tracks to play. I mean, I could share screens right now, but we'll do some of that later. But
Yeah.
I definitely want to add some clips when we start, get this thing all produced and put out there. I wanted to kind of get it from you first before And there's so much I don't know about you. I'm sorry, but I did some research and I looked around and I said, well,
Yeah, I'm relatively unknown.
well, but you've done so much, and if I could be a fly on the wall back in the day to do what you've done and to hear, to see what you've seen, it's pretty incredible. And that's why I had to get you on the show, man. We had to talk a little bit about this cool stuff. Now, you earned a gold album for your work on Long John Baldry.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, Long John Baldry. Long John
1980.
Baldry is quite a legendary figure in music as well, along with Roy Young.
Okay.
And John, John discovered Rod Stewart. Elton John was John Baldry's. Yeah, there you go. Elton John was John Baldry's keyboard player.
Okay.
When he was Reggie Dwight, and Elton Dean was John Baldry's sax player.
Okay.
And when Reggie Dwight named himself Elton John, he named it after Elton Dean and John Baldry. Unlike what they tell you in the movie, it wasn't John Lennon, it was John Baldry.
John Baldry.
Yeah. And that's the truth. The movie said, oh, well, he called himself John Lennon, but it was John Baldry.
That's an incredible story. Nobody
So, yeah. And so John had a lot of great players go through his band over the years. Amongst them, Mick Jagger, Charlie Watts.
Rest in peace, Charlie.
Just so many great players. A lot of them, their names are escaping me right now. But if you look up Long John Baldry's history, it was sensational, the people that he played with, That's the picture of Roy Young band. That's Roy Young. And Dennis Elliott is on drums in that shot.
Okay.
And Georgie Ford is the bass player. Eddie Thornton is the trumpet player. And these were all... Eddie Thornton is still playing, and he's in his late 80s. He's still playing in London.
I love the horns.
Yeah.
I love the keys. I love that old, what's it, old Baby Grand piano was played out there.
That was, I can't remember the name of that piano. It was an upright.
Was it an upright?
It was a little upright.
Okay.
And I can't remember the name of it, but it was an American-made upright, and he loved that thing. That thing was probably about 1,000 pounds. It was so heavy,
Oh my God, solid wood back then. They didn't make
Yeah, it was the real thing, and it stayed in tune. I think it was called a Foster or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name of it.
What year would that have been?
That photograph would have been probably late 72, early 73.
Okay, that's so vintage. Just the look. And who's playing bass over there?
That is George Ford. George played with a lot of bands in the 80s. He played with Al Stewart. He played with Cockney Rebel. He played with Cliff Richard, if you know who that is. He played with everybody. He was one of those guys. He was a top session guy in London for many years.
Familiar. That face just rings a bell.
Yeah, he's a great bass player, great guy, and sadly we lost him. He played with John Baldry as well after I quit John Baldry's band. He played with John. He moved to Canada where John was based, and played with John. Died of a heart attack out of the blue. Probably about 15 years ago now. Yeah.
Well, I've been doing a little promoting on you. I put some Facebook stuff on.
I saw that.
And I got this picture of you. I think that's pretty close to you. I recognize you there. and I was kind of boasting, and I was telling people, hey, you got to tune in on this. I'm talking to this legendary blues player that's been played everywhere, and from London, England, and has done some work with we're getting a Deep Purple's John Lord. Now, what's the story with Deep Purple on that?
Okay, yeah. I used to do a lot of sessions back in the middle 70s. Before I moved to the United States in 75.
Okay.
But before that, after the Roy Young band broke up, I did a lot of session work and played with a lot of different bands.
Okay.
And Howie Casey, whose name is on that promotional material there, Howie Casey is a tenor sax player,
Okay.
very, very well-known tenor sax player. And if you haven't heard of him, Howie was playing the Star Club in Hamburg before the Beatles were playing in the Star Club in Hamburg.
Oh, okay.
Howie is in his 80s now, still playing everywhere. But he was a very close friend of the Beatles because he's from Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
And he was tenor sax player with Paul McCartney and Wings. He played on pretty much everything McCartney did. And he had his horn section was the Roy Young Band horn section.
Okay.
Okay. So Howie, amongst other people, there were a lot of horn players would come and go in the Roy Young Band, but Howie was Roy's original tenor sax player. So Howie got a lot of really cool recording sessions. Mm-hmm. And because of the Roy Young Band connection, I got in on a lot of those sessions as well.
Okay.
And John Lord hooked up with a guy named Tony Ashton from a band called Ashton, Gardner and Dyke. And Tony Ashton and John Lord did an album together called First of the Big Bands.
Okay.
And the reason why it was called that, because there were like probably 20 or 30 musicians on that album, including so many big names: Peter Frampton, Cozy Powell.
Oh yeah, Cozy Powell.
The name, it went on and on. Dennis Elliott. I was in there. There were several guitar players on that album. And I mean, it's a great album. No one knows what it is, but it's called First of the Big Bands by Tony Ashton and John Lord.
I'll have to do a little research.
Try and listen to it if you can.
I will.
It's a great album, and they did a lot of live shows. And but when they started doing the live shows, I'd already left for the United States.
Okay.
So they used Bernie. What's his name? Great guitar player. Bernie. His name will come to me. But anyway, Bernie took my place.
Okay. What year would that have been?
That would have been late 74, early 75.
Okay.
Because I was playing with the Les Humphries Singers and I was in Europe a lot when that was all going on. I did the album with John Lord, and then I started working in Germany a lot.
Oh, wow.
So I was touring in Germany. I would do 3 months on, 2 months off, 3 months on,
Wow.
So then later in 75, I joined the Hudson Ford Band.
Okay.
Which was an offshoot of the Strawbs, if you've ever heard of the Strawbs.
No.
No, well, this is the 70s, you were a little kid.
63, I was probably 10,
Yeah, you were 10.
I was still figuring
But
it
the
out.
Strawbs were a pretty good band. And Richard Hudson and John Ford were members of that band, drummer and bass player.
Okay.
And they left that band, they wrote a song, a hit song, a #1 hit song called Part of the Union.
Okay.
So they went out on their own and they had a string of hits in England, and I joined that band.
Nice.
And but right at the time I joined the band, I left to move to the United States.
What year was that when you moved?
That was 1975.
75. Okay. So you.
And the reason I moved to the States, I was married to an American lady at the time.
Okay.
And she wanted to go home. Her hometown was LA.
Mm-hmm.
And Hudson Ford were going to start their US tour in LA. They were going to do the pre-production and rehearsals in LA.
Okay.
So here I was in LA, and then the record company canceled the tour, and I got stranded in LA. So
the guitar on your back, walking down Sunset Boulevard.
pretty much, yeah, I was stranded. I was like, what am I going to do now? I didn't know anybody. I was totally no connections.
Well, don't feel bad. I live here, and I still don't know anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. LA is not an easy place to make connections.
No, it's not.
Everybody will tell you that they are the big whatever with music.
Yeah.
And most of them are not, So to break into that is very difficult.
Well, and just to have your name on the marquee out front, you got to climb over a few steps. But I remember, when we had the name on the marquee out there was probably 1,000 bands. I was in the hair band era. So
Yep.
the mid '80s. That was the long.
Yeah,
long
especially
day.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a madhouse. I'm glad I'm a generation before that.
But but like you, I bumped into Mick Jagger and a few Entwistle at the Rainbow. But there's so many, I call them posers, just so many rock and roll musicians in LA.
That's the thing.
You don't know who's who. They all look like they're famous. Everyone looks like somebody. And but I loved playing down there. I loved being the house band. I liked certain clubs. I liked to play the Roxy.
Yeah.
The Troubadour was okay. I was a house band at Gazzari's for probably, I don't know, 8 years with Aftershock back in the 80s, and then that became Danger. But like you, just trumping around LA, you just never really get to know anybody. It's such a disconnected city, if that makes any sense.
It totally makes sense, yeah.
But for you, God, you must have been, how old were you when you were traipsing through LA?
I was, let's see, 1975, 58, 68, 78. I was about 25, 26 years old.
Okay, you saw Hollywood or LA in its prime.
Oh yeah, no, it was happening. I mean, it was happening,
Yeah, the Doors were playing down there at the time. Pretty close.
I don't think so. No, I don't remember seeing them play, but I used to go down there and hang out a little bit, And my wife was quite the music aficionado.
Now,
for want of another word.
now I'm gonna start digging deep into your personal life. How long were you married to your wife?
Well, I was only married to her for a couple of years. I married her before I moved to the States, and I was only, once we got to the States, things got a little bit uncomfortable without going into details, and
right.
I left her in 1976.
Okay.
And right about that time, my mom in England got taken ill, and I had to go straight back to England, and that was in late 76.
Okay.
And by that time, I was back in London. Punk rock had taken over everything. It was 1977, late 76, early 77.
Yeah.
And here I am, I'm 26 years old. So I went, well, I got to get some gigs. So I'm calling for auditions, and these kids are saying, well, how old are you, man? I said, I'm 26. They went, no, I'm sorry, man, you're too old.
You're too old.
I go, I'm 26. I said, you're too old. You got to be under 20. I'm like, okay. But I had a good friend, and he's a guitar player, and his name's escaping me right this second, because I'm trying to think of all of it. I'm trying to think back to this. Well, a fantastic guitarist, played with Kate Bush for many years.
Okay.
And he was a top session guy in London. He played with Mike and the Mechanics.
Okay.
All of that wonderful guitar on Mike and the Mechanics. That is my friend, whose name will come to me shortly.
Mike and the Mechanics, okay.
Yeah.
That just rings
and yeah. And he played with Kate Bush. He played with let's see, Mark King's band. You know Mark King, the bass player.
Sorry.
Yeah, all these names are going to come to me, but
after this interview, I'm going to have to go look all these names up.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to dig deep, and I was hoping to hear it from you, of course.
Yeah.
You're the man, and I kind of came into the business in '79, so that kind of gives you 78, '79 is when I started playing Hollywood.
That's right. Well, '79, late '78, '79 was when I joined Baldry's band.
Okay.
Because I was in England. I was only in England for a year, and that was from late '76 to late '77.
Okay.
And I came back to the States in '78, and that's when I moved to Lake Tahoe. And while I was in England in '78, I recorded an album with Davey Patterson.
Okay.
And Davey Patterson is a fantastic singer in his own right, but he replaced Jimmy Dua with Robin Trower.
Oh wow, okay.
And he was Robin's vocalist for many, many years.
Robin Trower.
Yeah. But you know Ronnie Montrose, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, he was, Davey was the singer with Gamma.
Okay.
Ronnie's band Gamma.
Right.
So the album we did back in London back then was shopped by our manager to Bill Graham. And Ronnie heard the vocalist and he said, I want that guy for Gamma. So our album didn't get picked up, but Bill Graham contacted Davey and said, hey, we want you to come to the States and join a band with Ronnie Montrose. It's going to be called Gamma. And the rest is history, you know.
Oh my gosh, Montrose, man.
It's all connections, you know.
Yeah, and that's more my speed. I grew up with Montrose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was a fantastic player.
That's awesome.
So I met him several times when Davey was playing with, because I knew Davey from before that time, you know.
Okay.
So Davey and I put a couple of bands together over the years, you know. Then he joined Trower for at least 15 years. And Davey is now back in Scotland, because he's Scottish.
That's where I'm from.
He moved back to Scotland.
Well, I'm not from there, but that's my...
that's your heritage.
That's my roots, yeah. Scottish.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. So
Well,
that's
great.
yeah, Davey Pattison. There's people out there doing a little research. It's
Yeah.
Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N.
You got
And
it.
then there was
Yeah.
John Lawton and John Lawton. Is that right?
John Lawton, yes. Now, John Lawton, you would know of Uriah Heep.
Okay, okay.
John Lawton was the singer that replaced, and I can't think of the original singer's name with Uriah Heep, but he replaced him when that guy left. And John sang with Uriah Heep for many, many years.
Okay.
And I knew John Lawton because John Lawton was the singer, one of the singers with the Les Humphries singers in Germany. So that's how I came to know John. A fantastic singer. Just, you know, he was one of the better singers in that band. You know, great player.
Did you
great guy.
Did you get to record with John? Do some albums together?
We did a couple of albums in Germany.
Okay.
That, you know, the Les Humphries Singers was kind of a very European style band.
Right.
It was very poppy, very 70s, very poppy, you know.
Yeah, and when you say poppy, you mean not blues or not
No,
like
it was pop music.
Okay.
It was pop music. Yeah, it was not my style at all, but it paid enormous amounts of money.
Sure.
I mean, I would get back from a tour, a 3-month tour, and I mean, I had money flowing out of my ears. There was so much money, you know, for that time.
Yeah, for that time.
It was insane, you know.
For that time to make money in the music business, period, was a pretty tall order.
Exactly. So I was making a ton of money. So, you know, it was good times, you know.
Yeah, it beats the hell out of, when I entered LA, it was a pay-to-play situation. You know, there wasn't no money.
Exactly. Well,
nobody wanted to pay.
Like I said, the reason I quit John Entwistle's band, I made more money in one night than I could make in a week with John Entwistle.
That's amazing.
And we would do, sometimes we would do doubles. We would do 2 gigs a night.
Wow.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
and
Yeah.
I would make enormous amounts of money, you know.
Were you playing bars, nightclubs, concerts?
No, it was all stadiums.
Stadium. Okay. Stadium.
We would do like a stadium show, like a matinee at like 4 o'clock, and we would do an evening show at 8 o'clock.
Oh my God.
I mean, and it was 15,000. We played the Munich Olympic Stadium.
Oh my God. Yeah.
30,000
25, 30,000 people.
It was a trip. I'd never played to that many people in my life, and I was scared stiff. I'm like, what is this? I didn't know. I joined the band.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they were that big. They were huge. I mean, he had gold albums, platinum albums, gold cassettes, platinum cassettes, you know. It was nuts.
And going back to, you got this, all this started with, you had friends in the UK. I don't know much about the UK, in London, Germany, and all that. But it seems like everyone knew who you were, and you knew who they were, and you just were really tied in pretty tight with everybody.
Well, yeah, I was lucky because people liked me. They liked my playing, and they referred me. They said, hey, this guy is a good player.
Right, referrals.
He's a good guy. I mean,
Sure.
personality and being a nice person is half the battle.
Well, it really is, and if people
You know,
like you, yeah, and you're a great musician.
egos will get you nowhere. You know, you can't be an egomaniac.
Right, right.
People won't hire you. If you think you're all that,
Mm-hmm.
they'll pass you over for the next guy, you know.
No, and
And
that is 90% of it.
well,
If
I
it,
mean,
if
you know,
being a likable
Jeff
guy.
Beck, I'll tell you, Jeff Beck is such a nice, normal person when you get to meet him and get to know him. When we were in the studio, this studio was converted out of a huge barn in the countryside,
Oh, okay.
and there was a farmhouse, and Jeff used to make us tea and sandwiches, and he'd bring us in a tray of tea and sandwiches. He goes, "Hey, I made you guys tea and sandwiches." I'm going, "Oh, thanks, Jeff. That's cups of tea," and he'd make them himself. He's a nice guy,
Yeah.
just a regular guy. I mean, and he's not an egomaniac. You know, he's a good person. You know,
You don't hear that a whole lot. There's a
You
certain,
don't.
in the music society, especially
There's a-
later on.
yeah, there's a lot of ego trippers. You know, and I think in your generation there was a lot more ego trippers, especially like in LA.
Yeah. Oh,
A lot
absolutely.
of big shots that
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
actually big shots.
Right. And I've played with them all. I don't want to talk about my stuff, but I played with Guns N' Roses and Poison and all the
Nice.
later
Yeah,
rock.
yeah,
Later,
that's great.
79. So I was down in LA, so opening up for Van Halen, and meeting Eddie and talking to didn't
A
care
great
much.
scene. It was a great scene.
Yeah, but
The
there was
80s
a lot,
was a
lot,
great
of, lot of
scene. Yeah.
egos, and a lot of musicians. And I just turn it off. If I go up to shake someone's hand, and they look at me
Yeah.
like, who the hell are you? I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Maybe I got the wrong guy here. I'll meet the rest of your band. But there was a lot of egos, and I played with a lot of great musicians. And
Yeah.
I've been through 20, 30 drummers. I'm a keyboard player myself. It was really, but I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to have great guitar players by me.
Nice.
And bass players and drummers, but I've went through probably over 60, 70 musicians to sift through, the muck in the 80s and find a guy who had everything, right? At the time I needed a little image, I needed a cool personality, I didn't need the big, crazy ego. And are you willing to work with the band? I'm not looking for Buddy Rich or Louis Bellson. I'm just,
Exactly.
I'm looking for a timekeeper, someone who's really nice to work with, and he looks okay too. That helped.
Yeah.
And at the time it was image, but I didn't really focus too much on image. I was more, am I going to be able to get along with this guy?
That's half the battle, like you say. But in your era, there was so much talent. There was so much talent, so many great players.
Yeah.
To try and find the whole package, though, a great player that was also a nice guy with no ego trips going on. That's the challenge. It's always been the challenge. It's hard to find nice people that you can get along with, because if you're going to work with them, you're going to tour with them, you're going to go through hard times, and you've got to suffer together.
Yeah, and especially.
And you can't have an ego tripper when you're trying to get along on a tour,
Or hot head or hot tempers and all that.
Yeah, you can't deal with that stuff.
You hear about the Eagles with Felder and the Eagles and all that story. They just didn't get along at some point. And I know there was
that's band life, isn't it? Band life is, there's going to be issues, and you've got to be able to tolerate each other.
Yeah.
During the hard times,
Well, in part of my career, me and the bass player were kind of the glue in the band, and that was when I was in Aftershock in 1979. And without him, I needed that person that I could work with. And then we went through a few guitar players and a few drummers and this and that. But it was that one guy, and I don't know if you had that one guy that you got along really good with and played with for a very long time.
Yeah.
Or even, it sounds like you had a few guys, that were legendary, that you got along with, so you must have been a super guy. I'm really serious.
Well, Dennis Elliott and I played in the Roy Young band together, and then we played in Doris Troy's band together.
Okay.
And then we played in that Holy Mackerel band together.
Okay, the Holy Mackerel.
So we were there.
Where did you guys come up with that name, Holy Mackerel? I gotta know.
Well, you know the saying, "Holy mackerel!" You know, that's.
Wait, is this the band? Is this the one?
I didn't come up with the name, that's for sure. That band was going before Dennis and I joined.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, they had a couple of albums out in England and a couple of singles, and I didn't do any recording with them at all, nor did Dennis. We just joined them and we played a bunch of shows with them, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is this the Holy Mackerel band here? Let's see, I got a few here. Or was it this one?
That's the Holy Mackerel Band, yeah.
Okay, okay. And where are you at? Where are you at in this? Is that
I'm on the right hand side of that picture.
way over here?
I got the white jacket on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Look at your hair, man. That's just so reminiscent of the '70s, right?
Oh yeah.
That's Robert Plant hair right there. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look at these guys. I just love it. You know. I kind of
Well,
miss
now
that.
the singer, I got to tell you a story here. This is a very cool story. There was a band called Orangutan. Okay.
Orangutan?
Like the monkey. Like
Okay.
the monkey, yeah. Orangutan.
Orangutan.
And when I was 19, that singer was in my band Orangutan.
Okay.
And we recorded an album for a guy named, what was his name? He was, his name's gone out of my head.
Producer?
He was one of those crooked managers.
Oh yeah, there's a few of those out there.
He would, he recorded a bunch of bands, young kids, amongst of whom was the Babies.
You're not talking about Pearl Man. No, that would be later.
No.
That was later.
Adrian Miller.
Adrian Miller.
And he recorded the Babies, and the Babies, that album broke, and the Babies got big. You remember the Babies in the 70s?
Oh, John Waite, right?
John Waite, yeah.
Okay.
That was one of Adrian Miller's bands, and my band, Orangutan, was one of Adrian Miller's bands. But what he did to us, get this, he signed a record deal with Bell Records in the United States, released our album without our knowledge.
Holy smokes.
Kept all the money, and we knew nothing about it because there was no internet,
right?
Not a lot of ways to communicate.
So he released it on vinyl, the album?
It was released on vinyl.
Okay.
Now check this out. So about 2 or 3 years after it was released, our bass player had a pen pal in the United States. And he told our bass player, he said, "Hey, I saw your album for sale in the shops." And he goes, "What album are you talking about?" He says, "The Orangutan album." He goes, "They never told us it was released." So he mailed him a copy.
Oh my gosh.
And we tried to go after him, but he disappeared.
Well, how did he release the? Well, he just he did all this behind your back, right?
All behind our backs.
And you guys had no clue.
No clue.
And well, I guess today, if that had happened today, you would know right away, right?
Well, yeah, because of the internet. But now, if you go on the internet now,
yeah,
and type in Orangutan Band, you're going to find our album available all over the world.
That's
even
amazing.
now.
Are you
50 years old?
Are you playing guitar on it? On the
yeah. It's available all over the world, and it's all bootleg copies except for recently.
Right.
And there's a Spanish record company called Gerson Records that released it on vinyl again, an official copy.
I think I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Orangutan is, I don't know if I spelled it right. Orangutan band people. Let's see here.
UTAN.
UTAN. So I have the Orangutan Playground, UK.
Magic Playground?
1971, I think so.
That's it.
Progressive hard. What? Let me see here. What do we got? I'd love to share this. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
So what was the highlight of your career? So you've done all this stuff, and there has to be a moment in your career, the best thing you've ever done. And, I just want to hear it from you.
Well, I think one of the things I'm most proud of was some of the shows that I did with Long John Baldry. because it was a fantastic band. It was just probably the best band, the best group of players that I've ever played with.
Okay.
Kathy McDonald was a lady singer with John Baldry.
Okay.
Kathy McDonald replaced Janis Joplin with Big Brother and the Holding Company back in the 60s.
Okay.
She was that good.
Mm.
And you can look up her name, Kathy McDonald, Kathi McDonald, McDonald.
There she
And
is. Yeah, I see her.
she's a fantastic singer. I mean, she was just the most fantastic singer. And the whole band were just great players. And I've got some live recordings that I treasure of some of the live shows we did. And the 1980 tour we did lives in my memory as one of my favorite tours I ever did with the band, because it was such a great tour.
Now the young boys are all hanging out in bars. You know that old men don't have to cruise them on iron cars. And those young girls, they love the smell of flowers. Old dykes love to play with them for hours. Ah, the days are straight, and the streets are queer. Ah, and the bars just call everybody dear. They know that I'm thrills and thrills. Thrills and thrills. Thrills and thrills. We burn in paradise. Yeah, even up in paradise.
Some of the stuff Kathy did, she sings on Rolling Stones All Down the Line. She's featured on that track. And as a backup singer, you know, just not featured as a lead vocalist, but a backup singer, you know. But she was just a tremendous undiscovered talent, you know.
She wrote a song, I'd Rather Be Blind, or I'd Rather Go Blind.
Yeah, there you go.
Blues.
That's John Baldry's band. That's Papa John King on guitar. He replaced me when I left the band.
This guy here.
Yeah.
Wow, she's got a good voice.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah, beautiful voice.
Yeah, she's something else, man.
And you got to play with her when you were.
Well, she was the lead singer with John Baldry for many, many years.
Okay.
So when I was with John Baldry, she was the other half. There's some great video on YouTube of her and John singing together with me in the band. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, send me a link, and I'd like to put that in, in the podcast.
It's a track off of the Gold album that we did as well.
Are you gigging with anybody or playing with anybody?
Yeah, I'm playing with a band called Big Red.
Okay.
And it's named after the Big Red 335 guitar.
Okay, all right. Love that guitar. I was in Sam Ash last night, and I was playing.
Oh yeah.
I was playing some of their Gibsons and some of the Bigsby's, and I'm looking for another guitar.
Yeah.
And similar, reminiscent of that red guitar.
Yeah, the 335. It's beautiful. I got my latest acquisition. It's a really pretty Les Paul.
Oh, I like the wood grain on that.
Yeah, it's a really pretty one.
Oh,
and I got to tell you the story about this guitar. I didn't want to buy it, but I bought it off of a Vietnam vet.
No shit.
And he came into my shop,
Right.
my shop, and he said, "Hey Mick," he said, "I want you to look at this Les Paul." And I said, "I'll look at it, but I'll tell you right now, man, I don't want to buy it. I don't want to buy it." And I looked at it and I thought, man, this is just a gorgeous guitar, and it plays great. but I didn't want to buy it. And he teared up. He said, man, he said, I've had no electricity at my house for 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
I said, I'll buy the guitar.
Oh my gosh. You
So
know.
I paid him for the guitar, and he was a happy boy. And I've got the guitar, you know. I said, if you ever want to buy it back, let me know, you know.
Well, that was nice. That was nice of you to say that.
Well, he's a sweetheart of a guy. He comes in my shop all the time and hangs out and chats, you know. And he's a vet, you know.
You know what? You got to help the vets, man.
You got to support those guys, man.
gotta
You know,
support
that's
them.
the way it is, you know.
I say it every day. I've got my Korean. My dad was a Korean War vet. My whole family's Navy.
There you go.
Ships, submarines. Yeah, my dad was submarine.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's hardcore.
He was in the Korean War, '54. Korean
Wow.
War, and then most of my family's Navy. And my nephew right now is in Japan flying an F-18, the E-18 jet.
Wow.
Or
Wow.
he's an officer in the Navy now.
Wow.
About to be a commander. So he's really, really done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Tell him I said thank you for your service, man.
Yep. And
Always.
he's gonna get to watch this podcast. I wanted to do it live because they have all these numbers you can call in. It's really complicated. If you want to do a live broadcast, streaming live, it's coming. It's getting closer to turnkey, but right now you still got to figure out, you know, the bobbing and weaving and which program.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
But and I've only been doing this podcast about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months now, and you are the start of my second season.
Nice.
And I wanted to kind of start it off with a little classic vintage feel, and I'm gonna kind of move through the 60s, 70s.
Oh, cool.
And then I'll, you know, kind of nudge through the 80s and 90s. But I kind of want to make this season 2 about you. I wish I was a fly on the wall back then. And my nephew he's got all the albums, the first Beatles album, still wrapped in cellophane.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And he's only 29. I mean, he's only 29. He's my nephew. And he has crates. Prince, you know, when Prince did his first few albums. And he understands, he respects, you know, the classic, the vintage, where music got started, you know. And how it evolved. And then the 80s and 90s came about and things got a little bit messy. But
yeah, it did. It got saturated.
It got so many categories. And you remember when you walk in a record store, you could find a rock and roll album in the rock and roll section, right?
Yeah.
And then you went to soft rock, medium rock, hard rock, heavy metal. And then it got even crazier, right? You know, I'm looking for a Rush album. Where's Rush at? You know, hard rock, heavy metal, progressive. And if you remember, I walked into Tower Records one day and there was about 50 categories of music. Progressive jazz, rock jazz, heavy metal, soft rock, mellow rock, hard rock. And I couldn't find the...
Yeah.
And today is kind of like that. Today, you try to categorize indie rock. You got indie pop, right?
Yeah.
And with now heavy metal, and then you got screamo. You know, what the hell is screamo?
Man.
Screamo,
Yeah.
and heavy metal, and grunge. You had the grunge, remember?
I can't get to that shit, man. I just can't.
It's
So
so
I gotta. You know what I listen to more than anything these days?
yeah.
I listen to 70s and 80s funk. Because I love funk. I love funk, man. The Daz Band, you know, James Brown. I love all that.
Do you play some funk on the guitar? That
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You see, the reason my style is in my mind, a guitar player's job is 90% rhythm, 10% solos.
Right.
Right? You gotta see, and when I was a kid, all the bands I played with were horn bands.
So
the horn players were the soloists,
right.
and I was part of the rhythm section. So that was my gig, man, rhythm. And I love playing rhythm.
Well, you know,
I mean, I can solo all day long, but
Yeah.
I love playing rhythm and working with the bass player and the drummer and making it groove.
And
That's what it's all about, man.
That is the glue.
That's what it's all about.
That's all about that. Because now
Yeah.
you put the icing on the cake, right? You got the lead player. If he doesn't have a foundation laid on top of it, for instance, a bass player drummer relationship. Right? Now you got the rhythm player locked into bass and drums. Now you got the trio.
That's it.
And
That's
everything else is glitter. Everything else is icing on the cake.
It's icing on the cake, yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
And
you know,
you are the reason that song is tight and sounds so good.
exactly.
The rhythm has got to be there.
Yeah. The most important guy in the band is the drummer,
Absolutely.
and then it's the bass player,
And it's the
and
bass.
then it's the rhythm guitar player.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Well, I'm like you in that sense. I'm a rhythm player first.
Yeah.
And then, of course, lately I've been playing a lot of lead stuff, but I'm nowhere near, that type of playing. But rhythm, I'm a songwriter, and I'm a drummer. I'm a drummer when I was 4 to,
Yeah.
been a drummer all my life. So when I'm playing the guitar, I'm playing the drums. And I'm chicka 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 chicka.
I get it, man. Yeah.
And I'm feeling
That's-
the beat. If it's on the top or the bottom, if I'm in the pocket, if I'm right on the beat, if it's a 4/4 count and I'm on
Yeah.
top of it, and when I go into a rock band station, I'm saying, guys, I need you on top of the beat. I need you right on it because you can't lag. Or I'm playing with some blues guys that say, get on the back. Get on the back of the beat.
Exactly. You got it, man.
Second. So as a drummer, I feel that.
Yeah.
And then when my bass player feels that, and the drummer feels that, it's over.
And it's hard to find, in my experience, it's hard to find a drummer and a bass player that can understand when a song has to be played behind the beat,
Right.
on the beat,
Right.
on top of the beat,
All of that.
Um,
And you get it. You get it. That's why you're so good at rhythm, because you are in your mind. You're the drummer. You are. You're feeling it in the pocket.
yeah.
You have that rhythm, and I think that is 99%, man.
Have you ever heard of Brian Auger?
Name rings a bell.
He's a Hammond organ player, jazz Hammond organ player.
Well, you got me on Hammond jazz. Okay.
Yeah. So Brian Auger, very, very famous. And Brian Auger played with Long John Baldry for many years. And when I was a young kid, 17, 18, when I was playing, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, played with that band, Freddie Mac's band.
Okay.
Freddie Mac. One of the conga players with his band was a guy named Lennox Langton.
Okay.
Lennox, Langton, or it may be Langton, Laington. Anyway, Lennox Langton was Brian Auger's conga player.
Okay.
And Lennox sat me down one day as a young kid, and he said, Mick, I'm going to teach you a lesson about time. He said, when you play guitar, he said, you can play behind the beat, you can play on the beat, or you can play in front of the beat. And the song will tell you how you need to play it. And I'll never forget that lesson. He was one of my mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And he played on the congas. He goes, you hear this time? And he'd go, I'm going to play behind the beat now. And I'm going, oh, I get that. I see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, you're doing it naturally, Mick. He said, you're doing it naturally. You get it.
Yeah.
He goes, but I want to explain to you why you're doing it and what it means when you're doing it. He goes, you naturally are playing what the song is called for.
Yeah, you felt it. You instinctively.
But he explained to me why.
Yeah, and you felt it instinctively.
Yeah, I felt it.
Instinctively.
I could feel it,
you could
but
feel
I
it.
didn't know why. I didn't know what I was feeling. I was like,
Yeah,
when he explained it to me,
yeah.
I was like, oh, that makes sense now.
Well, and Mick, you've been in. I'm guessing you've been in the recording studios most of your life.
Well, I've done a lot of recording.
You've done a lot of recording.
Yeah.
And we learn so much in the recording studio. Of course, we have it to begin with. I'm not bypassing that. But when you get in the studio under a microscope and you're jamming with the drummer and the bass player, and you got the producers and the engineers. And
Yeah.
I know this, firsthand. You're under and you are locking in. You're locking in. The producer's hearing it. He's going, "That's what I want." And I think I'm just guessing, but that's why you became such a phenomenal, well, not really a session player, but everybody wanted you. Everybody wanted to play with you because they knew you had that instinct, right? I mean, there's so many musicians, and I got to tell you, I played with them. Like, are you kidding me? They're not getting it. They're just they're not, you know, they're not getting it. They're not landing, you know, on the beat. And I'm like, whether it's
unfortunately,
a drummer,
I agree with you. A lot of players don't understand.
you know, I hate to brag on you like that, but I think that was one of your main qualities as a musician, is having that ability to sit in with anyone, whether it be Eric Clapton, B.B. King, whoever, and you were like this, and they were like, yeah, this is the guy I want to play with, you know. And
I've been fortunate. Yeah, not a lot of players understand it, and what I'm doing these days, I meet a lot of younger guys, and I play with a lot of younger guys around my area, jam with a lot of younger guys.
Right.
There's a couple of kids right now, a kid named Dylan Long. He's a guitar player with an enormous potential. And he's a beautiful kid. He's a great kid. He's like, I think he's 21. And he's got so much potential.
Are you mentoring him, kind of bringing him in a little bit?
Yeah, I'm bringing him in, and I'm getting him to sit in with us. You know, we played last weekend. And I said, yo, Dylan, come on down and sit in, man. I want you to play, you know.
Nice.
And he did great.
Yeah.
And every time I hear this kid, he's twice as good as the last time I heard him play. He's just a phenomenal guy, and he gets it.
Well,
he gets it.
And he's also looking to you. You know, you're a great man.
Yeah, I mean, he's enjoying the fact that I'm digging what he's doing.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And
he's got the talent. He's got the talent to begin with.
Well, when you get to my stage, you got to pass this stuff along to the kids. You got to.
Right.
This is what I've learned.
Yeah.
You got to learn this stuff too, and I'm going to help you. Like that Lennox guy, you know, quantified what I was doing,
right,
and instructed me and was a mentor for me. Now is my turn to pass that along to those kids.
Well, you know,
I'm not a technical guitar player, but I'm more of a groove player.
Well, you can't buy
you
can't
teach that.
You can't. Yeah.
You can't teach that. You either feel it or you don't.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. And I've had parents bring me their kids and say, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, right off the bat, she's got a great voice, but she doesn't have a clue where to come in and all this stuff.
Where to put it, yeah.
So you might want to, you know, give her some drum, guitar lessons, piano lessons, to teach her some timing, and bring her back in.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to have it all. You know, I know that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
You
it's
know?
true.
And you feel the timing, and you, of course you play guitar. So So did I ask you when you started playing guitar? I know it says 9 on your website.
Yeah.
And I know I'm digressing back, but was that the only instrument you played, or did you learn any other instruments when you first started?
No, not really. I mean, I wanted to play violin.
Okay.
And I got hold of a violin. I forget where it came from, but I was squeaking and squeaking on it for several weeks. And I wasn't doing really well with it, so I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And my eldest brother said to me, he said, Mick, he said, you know, my friend's daughter is desperate to play violin, and I can tell that you're struggling with it. Would you consider giving it to this girl, because she's got potential and I think she'll do well with it? So I gave her the violin.
Well, that was nice, you know. And did she take off with it, or did she, you know?
I never knew. I never knew what happened. But, you know, maybe she's with the Philharmonic. I don't know.
How funny. My last podcast was with a nationwide violinist.
Really?
And if you got a chance, look for Asher Lobb. And he's a young kid that's making his living playing the violin.
How do you spell her name?
Asher Lobb, L-A-U-B.
Got it. Okay, Asher Lobb.
And I interviewed him because I found he integrates violin with breakdancing. And
how interesting.
And hip hop music.
Yeah.
And he plays the crap out of the violin.
Nice.
And so he is earning a living every day playing that violin. And so
So he's exploring new fields with it. That's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been
Creative.
Yeah, very creative. But he's doing the
Inventive.
break dancing with hip hop and then the violin. You got to check it out. And I did an hour and a half interview with him, and talked to him, and he's a really nice guy. And
Yeah.
and I don't know many violin players that are out there making a living and doing it every day. And of course, he does weddings, events. He does a lot of events.
That's
and
cool.
And he's making money online, which is very
No, good for him.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
And
Yeah.
when you said violin, he's got the electric violin, and he's also got
Yeah.
the acoustic.
Yeah.
So when you said violin, it kind of triggered that. Sorry, I kind of got a little carried away. But I'm impressed by musicianship and people like yourself, man. It's just so fascinating. I would like to be a fly on the wall in every recording studio and every rehearsal you've done. And that's why I wanted to get you on the show. So give me a little bit of idea what you were doing later in the 80s and 90s, if you could kind of sum it up. And what are you doing now?
Well, when I got stranded in Los Angeles,
Right.
yeah, I mean, and that was the thing. That was 1975, late
Okay.
75.
Okay, right.
And one of the things where I've always been, I always like to have a second string to my bow. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
So I'm a graphic artist
Okay,
and a lettering artist, and it's something that I've always loved to do.
nice.
And when I got stranded in LA, I'm like, well, I don't know anybody in the music industry. How am I going to make money? I've got a place to live. I got to buy gas for my car. What am I going to do?
Right.
So I opened up the LA Times, and it said, "Sign painter wanted, Magic Mountain." And I was like-
Magic Mountain. You mean the entertainment place?
The theme park, yeah, the entertainment park. Sign painter wanted. I said, well, I can paint a sign. I can do that. And when I moved to the States, I had a little box of brushes from when I used to paint signs years before,
Right. Okay.
So I bluffed my way into this gig
Mm-hmm.
at Magic Mountain in their sign department. And there was an old guy there that knew that I didn't have a clue what the hell I was doing.
It's like, who the hell is this guy?
And he said, Mick, he said, I'm going to help you keep this job. I said, I need help to keep this job. I got no money. I need to keep this job. He said, let me help you.
Nice.
And he was a really cool guy, an elderly Jewish gentleman that had worked in the movie industry all of his life,
Okay.
doing titles for, when they did the hand-done titles in the movies.
Oh yeah.
That was his speciality when he was a younger man, And he was a great guy, and he took me under his wing, and he fast-forwarded me into lettering, and I started doing all of this decorative lettering and murals at Magic Mountain.
Okay.
And it was a great, I loved it. I loved it because it was so creative, And in the meantime, I was still trying to find musicians to play with, but it was impossible. Couldn't find anybody,
Well, that was in the mid '70s, right?
Mid-70s. Couldn't find anyone to play with. I mean, I jammed with a bunch of guys, and it was all like nothing,
Yeah. And to make
But-
and that was in LA.
That was in LA. So, of course, then I went to England, stayed in England for that year, did the album with David Patterson, came back to live in Lake Tahoe, joined John Baldry's band.
Okay.
That brings us up to 1980. I quit John Baldry's band because I was sick of being on the road on tour. I've been touring since I was like 18 years old,
Yeah. Nice.
And now I'm like almost 31 years old, and I didn't want to keep touring. I'm sick of it,
Yeah.
By this time, I'm remarried, and I want to start a family. So I said I'm going to quit touring, and I'm going to play locally with local musicians,
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did I do? I ended up joining several bands, and I'm playing all over the place, traveling all over Nevada, playing on these crazy Nevada gigs, which are awful. Those Las Vegas show bands and all that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Now, did you play any resident gigs down in Las Vegas?
I didn't do it. I didn't do any, not resident things, you know. But we played like Winnemucca, Tonopah,
Okay.
Fallon, all of those out of the way, Ely, in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, middle of nowhere in these little casinos, playing till 3 in the morning. You know, I was like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I only did that for a couple of years. I went, I can't do this. It's like 6 sets a night, 6 nights a week. I went, I can't do this. You know?
You get there at 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock for sound check.
Oh, horrible.
And at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you're packing your gear up and coming home.
Yeah, man. I was like, no, I
Uh,
did it for. I think I did that for like 2 years, and I was like, no, I can't handle this.
You know what's funny is you just told my story because that's
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
yeah,
If you're a musician in Nevada, that's the only thing there is, right?
yeah, yeah,
And we call it the silver circuit up here. You know,
right.
it's the silver circuit. And I mean, I've watched the sunrise, and I've been playing guitar at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Like, I can't handle this. You know.
Yeah, well, I've only been in Vegas now for a little over a year.
Oh,
my,
okay.
my family has been here my entire life. I'm the black
Oh,
sheep.
okay.
I'm the last one to come out here to Nevada.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking for some property out in Arizona, out that way, towards like Chino Hills, Cottonwood, out towards.
Is that the cooler part of Arizona? Right?
Sonoma, yeah, it's green. It's
Yeah.
6,000, 5,000.
Yeah, yeah, that's a nicer area. Yeah.
So you're right in the the gold mining area right there in what's it called? I was looking at Dewey, Humboldt, Arizona. Population 4,000.
Nice.
And my friends just bought a place up there, and they're actually in the house that is the gold mining captain who oversees
nice.
the gold mining operation. But yeah, I'm in Nevada now. It's a little hot out here, but I don't mind it. The other half, you don't like it.
Vegas is too hot for me, man.
It's hot. It's hot.
Yeah.
Now you're close. You're out towards Reno, correct? Reno way? Or?
No, I'm actually in I live in a place called Jacks Valley.
Jacks Valley.
Jacks Valley, and it's a beautiful valley, a very unspoiled, beautiful valley.
Okay.
And I lived at Tahoe for 41 winters.
Okay.
Right in Tahoe, and I just decided a few years ago it was time to get out, because Tahoe's getting so overcrowded, and it's there's so many tourists now. It's exploded, and I mean it's just a crowded place. It's not what it used to be. So I got out and I live in a really quiet area, and I got my little acre here. And it's landscaped, and I'm on my own well, and I'm away from it.
That's really
cool. It's pretty cool.
If you don't mind, I'd like to come out and visit you sometime.
Yeah, if you ever get out this way, you'd be welcome.
Bring the guitar down, maybe. That'd be fun. And the older I get, Mick, it's like the older I get, the more I want to get away from it all.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why I did this. Tahoe used to be a great getaway. But now everyone in the Bay Area wants to be here, you know.
Right, and so it's
and it's so overcrowded, you know, because San Francisco's turned into, you know, it's kind of it's ruined, it's destroyed.
Yeah, and you heard about New York lately, you know.
Yeah,
New York's 38% crime rate's gone up in New York.
Yeah, that's the thing. All those inner cities, they're getting messed up. Too many. So much drugs, crime.
Yeah, and just
why would you want to be there? You know.
Right, and it's kind of sad to think that
it's a tragedy.
It is, and
it's got to be. Someone's got to turn this shit around, man.
Los Angeles has been done for many years, but still is LA. But for New York to turn that way, and San Francisco, and some of these big cities to go under, it's just not right. We got to preserve our cities.
Yeah,
and find a place. If there's homeless, we gotta have shelters for them. We gotta have ways. We're spending all this money in other countries, and I hate to get into that politics side. But we have a lot of money here in this country.
I can tell we're on the same page, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to see homelessness. We don't need it. We don't have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
We can take some of that money and really do a lot of good with it, but we're not. And I keep telling my nephew, it starts down here at the citizen level. We need to get out and vote, and we need to maybe even become leaders of our own. in our own cities, right? There's some
Yes.
people that they can do that, and they, you know. But I'm not going to take sides. I'm not on a podcast show.
Can't do that. Don't go there,
I
man.
get in a lot of trouble over here, you know.
Don't go there.
But I don't know if you know much about my show, but it's all about music, and I incorporate every facet of music there is.
Nice.
All the way down to how to get started, recording, new musicians coming up. And
Yeah.
I told this guy the other night, hey, I'll interview him. I'll do a podcast with you. He said, really? Me? I'm nobody. I go, you know what? You have something to offer because you're a talented guitar player. You're recording at home. You're getting songs out on Spotify and all this. Maybe you can help the young guy coming up, you know, and teach him how to do that.
Yeah.
I can do that, but I like to hear it from my co-part, my other musicians.
Yeah.
And talking to you, my nephew was all excited. So you're going to talk with Mick Clarke because I showed him your website. So he couldn't wait to see this interview.
Nice.
He's gonna love it. He's gonna love it. Just in your stories, you know, I know that you've probably told them 100 times, but having a show like mine, my audience may have never heard that story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And they know who John Entwistle, the Who, and all that. They hear about the Who. And Roger Daltrey. What is going on with the Who? I haven't heard anything from the Who lately. Are they still all playing together?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I saw them. It would have been 5-6 years ago. They came to Tahoe to play.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, and
Daltrey still with them and all that?
Daltrey,
Okay.
Pete Townsend, and let's see, Zach Starr was playing drums.
Zach Starr.
Ringo's son.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And I forget the other musicians, but it was tremendous. They were fantastic, you know.
And they did all the old hits. And,
Oh yeah, they did a whole bunch of stuff. It was spectacular. I mean, it's a great show. Zach Starr's a great drummer, man. He kicked ass. You know, he kicks ass. He's a great player. And
you know, the apple don't fall far from the tree when it comes to John Bonham, his son.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
It's just phenomenal how genetics work, right? You know.
yeah.
You got Eddie Van Halen's kid, Wolfgang. He's
Yeah.
out there doing some Eddie Van Halen. He sounds just like his dad.
Really?
It's like,
Oh wow.
oh, you got to do some little research on Wolfgang. And they're starting to wonder maybe he was playing in the later Van Halen behind the curtain, you know. He's that good.
Wow.
He's
Wow,
like
that's
his
cool.
dad. Yeah. But
Yeah.
the apple don't fall far from the tree, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You have any kids? You know,
I have two. Yeah.
two? They're playing? Are they playing?
No, my son played around a little bit, and my daughter played a little bit of piano.
Okay.
And but they decided it wasn't for them.
Okay.
And my daughter is a ICU nurse at the local hospital in Tahoe, and she's just a fantastic person. She's got 3 daughters of her own,
Awesome.
and when she took her nurse's exam, she was in the top 3% in the entire United States.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so
Wow.
she's something else. And my son, he works with me at my sign company,
Okay.
and he's my right-hand man. He's production manager, and he's the other half of what I do, you know.
And he likes doing it. He enjoys it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think he deals with it.
Well, he's
He
working
deals
with
with
dad,
it.
so he either loves it.
That's the thing. I don't know whether he loves it, but he deals with it
He deals with
admirably,
it.
you know. And I pay him very, very well.
Well, that helps. Well, you could go
So
pay
he's
his
making
bills.
really good money because he's
Yeah.
my kid, you know.
I saw some of your. I did go to your. Saw some of your signs that you made. Big
Yeah.
billboard, building signs.
Yeah, we do everything. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I have a friend of mine that does that. It's very lucrative. Everyone needs signs.
It's creative.
It's creative. Yeah, that too.
You know, it's creative work, and like when you write a song and you record a song, when you build a sign and you create a design and then you turn it into a 3-dimensional sign, it's an amazing feeling. You created this thing, and it's
Yeah.
the same. I get the same rush when I create a beautiful logo
Yeah,
for somebody
I can
than
see
when
that.
I write a song.
That's cool.
It's the same process. It's a creative,
you're
only
an
it's a
artist.
visual creation instead of an oral creation, you know.
You're an artist. You're an artist, whether it be a painting.
It's, yeah, I
guitar.
mean, that's the thing, you know, and I painted signs for many, many years. So I'm a sign painter, and I've worked in England painting signs, and I've worked in the United States, in LA and Tyler painting signs.
Wow.
So nowadays, I very rarely pick up my brushes, but when I do, I charge an awful lot of money for it because there's not many guys that even know how to hold a brush. Because the digital print has taken over everything. But I get clients that say, we want you to hand letter it. And I go, okay, but it's going to cost you this much money.
Yeah.
You want me to pick up my brushes, you know, cross my palm with a lot of silver, you know.
Now, do you work with oil, water paintings?
Oil.
Charcoal, any charcoal, any other stuff?
It's oil.
Oil paints, okay.
Yeah.
And we have a friend in Australia that is a famous painter. Well,
Nice.
I don't know about famous, but he does like horses and landscapes, and mostly
Yeah.
an old Indian chief, and similar to probably what you're doing with the oil paint. And he charges a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
$10,000 to $50,000 per painting.
Yeah. Well, sign painting is a whole different ball of wax. It's not portrait painting or landscape painting. But I've done a lot of pictorial painting, which is similar,
Okay.
you know, but it's for commercial projects, you know. So I've done a lot of that in my lifetime.
So you have a very busy schedule between music, painting, and running a business, employing your son,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing you have other stuff going on with relationships and what have you. Maybe.
Well, I'm not in a relationship.
Okay.
I'm kind of done with it for a little while. You know, when you've had enough and you go, I can't do this for a while.
I understand. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I don't know what it is about singers. Now, I'm not putting you in a box, but for whatever reason, and if you look back at all the singers you've ever known, there was always a girl there, you know, holding on tight in the back, waiting for you to get off stage, and then the guitar player, the bass player, or the drummer, they just pick whoever they wanted. You know, I'll take you, you know. But for whatever, now I don't know if it's just me, but the singer always had a girlfriend. Like always had someone waiting on the side there. You know, they just, I got you over here. I think my roadies got more trim than I did back in the 80s. And I was always the one locked down for whatever reason. You know, I just fell in love with these girls, and I'm, I gotta have that. As much as I, you know, wanted to, I was always tied up for some reason. But my drummer, you know, he's out there. He's got 10 girls around him. I'm like, what's going on over here? Does that make any sense? You being around all the musicians?
Well, we've all had our days, haven't we? You know.
But the main thing was being professional, being a musician, going on stage, and I was always went on stage sober, clear-headed, at least through the first set. Then the second.
I was
set.
going to say, you know, I've had my run-ins with alcohol when I was younger.
Yeah.
I did plenty of gigs when I was drunk off my butt, you know. And but you know, I'm very, very fortunate that I never got involved with drugs. I mean, I smoked weed and all that kind of stuff. I did a little bit of cocaine back in the day, but I never really got into any of that. And I got a story for you. You're familiar with Ted Nugent?
Oh yeah, Teddy.
Ted Nugent's drummer, when he had all those big hits,
Oh yeah.
was a guy named Cliff Davis.
Remember Cliff Davis?
Yeah, Cliff Davis. Well, Cliff Davis was Ted Nugent's drummer when Ted had all the big hits. And now, get this, believe this or not, Cliff Davis was the drummer with the Roy Young Band
Okay.
back in the early 70s. So Cliff knew me, and Cliff was one of my mentors, you know.
Right.
When I got the gig with the Roy Young Band, I had to audition, and Cliff had the final word, and Cliff said, I want Mick in the band. So that's how I joined the Roy Young Band.
Okay.
And we would do 3 or 4 shows every week, and we would be traveling all over England 3 or 4 days a week, you know. And I'd only be home for like 2 or 3 days a week. then we go back on the road and we go up to Birmingham, Manchester, you know, and all points in between. And all the guys in the band used to enjoy doing their drugs and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And one day Cliff said to me, he said, Mick, he said, I want to tell you something. He said, I know who you are. I've been working with you long enough now to know your temperament and your mentality and the kind of person you are. And he said, I've got something really important to tell you. And I said, what's that? And he said, he looked me in the eye and he said, never do hallucinogenics, never do acid, never do mushrooms, never do any hallucinogenics. Just don't do it, because it won't work on you. It'll mess you up really bad. And I listened to what he said, and I
That was
never
good advice. That was good
I
advice.
never did any of that stuff. I never touched it. And I'm very, very glad for that advice, you know.
Well, you watch your friends, right? You're surrounded by people. And
Yeah.
And you want to dabble, you want to test when you're younger. And like you, I didn't want to be out of control like that.
Mhm.
Even though the drinking and the coke and all that would get me there. But the hallucinogenics were just too much. You know, once
Yeah, I didn't want to get there, yeah.
And my friends would, slip me a little acid when I go, oh, no. I'd do it one time, that's it. He says, my face is melting. I'm like, I'm not going there, man. I don't want my face to melt on the mirror, you know.
I got spiked one time with peyote,
Oh, yeah.
and it really it messed me up really bad. It messed me up so bad.
Yeah, the shrooms will.
Man, I was sick as a dog for 2 weeks after that. I thought I was going to die, man.
Well,
And I didn't know. Someone put it in my tea. They made me peyote tea,
Oh, my
and I
God.
didn't know what it was. And I'd had a few drinks, and I thought they were trying to help me. Instead of that, they spiked me.
You got to be careful, you know.
Oh
No.
yeah, I got to be real careful.
Real quick, and I want people to know out there, when you look for MickClarke.net, and I keep bumping into this other Mick Clarke guy.
The other Mick Clarke, yeah.
.com. Now, do you know that guy? Is he someone you might have?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story about him. We're both about the same age.
Okay. Yeah.
Our names are spelt the same.
Right.
We're both blues guitarists,
Right.
right? Everyone thinks I'm him, and everyone thinks he's
He says
me.
you.
And I first heard about this guy, believe it or not, when I was like 15,
Oh my God.
because he's also from London. He's from my part of London.
gosh, too many coincidences.
It's ridiculous, you know. So when I was 15, one of my friends said, you know, there's another guitar player that I've heard, and his name's Mick Clarke. I go, you're kidding? He says, no. So anyway, the other Mick Clarke, he was in a band called The Killing Floor,
Okay.
and he's made dozens of albums. He's made album after album, and he's played all over Europe like I did. He's done all of that stuff, you know. And he's the same age as me, exactly the same age as me. We're about, I think we're 2 months apart. Same year, 2 months apart, you know. I think he's 2 months older than me, in fact, you know. So
Yeah.
when the internet came out and I wanted to get my website, I put in mickclarke.com, and they went, it's already taken. I was like, shit, it's him, you know? So I had to get mickclarke.net. But everyone thinks I'm him still, and he gets the same thing. Everyone thinks he's me.
Well, I wanted to clarify that during the podcast show, because I'm going to put some links at the bottom of the podcast show, and I'll get with you later too as to what links you want to send people to, merchandise, your website, what have you, even your business, your painting, your signs. So I'm going to use the podcast show to direct people your way, and whether
Right on, man. Yeah, that's cool.
if it's lucrative for you, great. And just the other day I look back, I'm in 13 countries right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and not a big splash, but Australia's picking up some speed. They're like 3%.
That's cool.
The United States is like 90%. And then I'm like Bangladesh, India, UK, all 1%.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people that adds up to. But
Nice.
I'm trying to get out, to all these different countries. And eventually I want to do some live podcasts and bring in the phone calls and the interaction, which I think would be a lot of
That would be very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to do it right. And I don't want to just go out there and splash, crash and burn. But if I do it, I want to do it right. And I want, a million people to be going, yeah, I want to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
So I never do anything half-cocked. I usually do my research and make sure it's going to work for me.
Nice.
And I'd love to talk to you again and make that happen at some point. That'd be a lot of fun. And I'm going to be interviewing a lot. I love the blues. Because of you, I grabbed my guitar and started playing some blues. And I love to write the blues. The old 16 bar, 16 bar blues where you turn around and I'm learning to play. So I got my little looper all set up, my Line 6 JM4 looper, and I just run down a 16 track blues and I go back and play the lead to it.
Nice.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Why not?
I'm trying to learn. Now I've always relied on people like you to play my guitar parts for me, and because I've been surrounded by phenomenal talent, I just said I'm not going to go there because I'm going to have to dedicate my entire life to being that good, and I'm a songwriter, singer, I play drums and bass and piano and all this other shit. Yeah. But to be that good at lead, I would have to devote a little extra time, like half my freaking life, And really, I said, no, I got these guys, I don't need to do that. I got these guitar players, I got Mick Clarke over here playing guitar, I've got this guy, I got this guy. So I got kind of lazy, when it came to learning. I never had to. Now that I'm older, I'm by myself and I'm in my studio. I'm like, I don't have that guitar player here anymore. So I've got.
No, I get it. I've done a lot of demos for bands. I had my own band for a few years, a couple of years ago, and I ended that when the bass player left town, and I did a whole bunch of demos of other people's songs, so that we could do shows, and I wanted these guys to learn how I wanted them to play their parts,
Right.
So I did a whole bunch of 4-track demos. I sent you a couple of them actually.
Yeah.
A bunch of 4-track, I've got my obsolete Pro Tools here, which works great.
What version do you have? I got 12.
It's 8.3 or something.
8.3, holy boy. Okay.
But it works. It does what I want it to do, and it's paid for, So I can do all my demos and all my recording things with my Pro Tools, and what I like to do is do it what is real. There's not a lot of overdubs. I'll do 4 tracks. I'll do a drum track. I'll play my bass on my bass track. I'll do 1 guitar track, the rhythm and lead. No overdubs, just 1 guitar track. And 1 vocal track, 4 tracks. So that's all there is. And there's no overdubs and there's no editing. It's just, that's reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
so the
awesome.
only thing that I'm programming is the drum track, because I don't have it. Well, I've got a drum kit, but I can't play it too well, But so I program the drums, but everything else is played basically live. I might repeat the bass line or something like that, But the guitar part is played live all the way through, rhythm and lead, and then I'll sing it,
Okay.
And I like doing it like that because it's not a ton of overdubs. It's not 15 or 20 tracks.
Right.
Although I do that occasionally when I want to really produce something.
Sure.
And I think I sent you some of those tracks where I produced with 20 or more tracks,
Yeah.
and overdubs and horns and keyboards and God knows what else,
I'm going to go through those after this podcast. I'm going to go through those. Yeah, I want to hear them.
I got a ton of stuff, but the reason I did those 4 tracks, because I wanted to see how it was going to sound when my band played it in live. It's like that's all you got is 4 people, Actually, I had a trio,
No, and I'm like you. I don't like to overproduce in the studio.
No.
If I can't come out of the studio and sound like that live, there's no way I'm going to do the whole Milli Vanilli thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I want it to sound like it sounds live.
Right. You hear. I'm trying to think of some bands out there I've heard. Boston, for instance. They sound overproduced, right? But when they come out and play a live concert, I don't know if you've seen Boston, but they set up like they're in the studio.
Oh, really?
And they still sound like the album, but they are so over. To me, I love Boston.
Yeah, it was overproduced though.
A lot of production, and of course Boston was one of the biggest rock '80s bands, or whatever. But then you go back to Led Zeppelin. They were kind of raw. Led Zeppelin came out.
Yeah.
Just the style was just the offbeat. I loved Led Zeppelin. They brought in more Jimi Hendrix. Did you ever get to meet Jimi Hendrix?
Oh yeah, I saw him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never met him, but my friend Les was he was a Burmese kid that I grew up with in school.
Right.
And Les was a hairdresser in London, and he did Jimmy's hair, and he knew Jimmy. I knew Monica Danneman, Jimmy's girlfriend.
Okay.
After Jimmy passed away, I played one of Jimmy's guitars.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, Monica was the girl that was with Jimmy when he died.
Okay.
She was a German girl. She's passed away now. Her name was Monica Danneman. After Jimmy died, she fancied herself as a singer.
Mm-hmm.
So me and the drummer that was with the Orangutan band, we got the word that she wanted to audition musicians for her own band.
Okay.
So we went to her apartment in London to be interviewed by Monica, and her brother was there, and he was kind of acting as her manager and her bodyguard sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm over at Monica's house, and I see this white strap that's strung the other way around, sitting in the corner, and I said, Monica, I said, is that one of Jimmy's guitars? She goes, oh yeah. I said, would you please let me play it? And she goes, yes, of course. So I picked it up and I played one of Jimmy's guitars. I mean, it was strung the wrong way around for me, because I'm right-handed.
You're
But
right.
I played one of
right.
his.
Okay.
I played one of his white strats, and I'll never forget that. That was a holy grail moment,
Oh my God. Yeah.
Pretty neat,
Just touching.
And of course, there was a bunch of other guys there from a bunch of other bands that all wanted to join her band. And they were going, oh man, let me play that. I said, yeah, there you go. Are you okay with that? And she's like, yeah, you can all play it. So everybody wanted to touch that guitar,
Oh my God, Jimi Hendrix, what a legend, right? He brought in a whole new style of music, guitar player.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything changed when he came to London,
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him play a couple of times in London, in the small clubs,
Wow. Yeah.
So it was cool. I saw him in the Marquee Club, which was the club in London in those days,
London, yeah.
And one of my favorite bands opened for him, and that was a band called The Nice, and that was where Keith Emerson made his start in the music business.
Wow, Keith Emerson.
A band called The Nice, and they were a great band,
And how old was Keith Emerson back then? He must have been young.
Well, we were all in our 20s,
20s, yeah.
Yeah.
And Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, but the band that he started out with was called The Nice.
The Nice.
Look them up, man.
I will.
It was a phenomenal band.
I think
that
I've
band-
had a history lesson today. Just
Oh,
talking
yeah.
to you. I'm gonna listen back to this podcast. I'm gonna look up everybody you talked about.
Yeah, look up The Nice.
The Nice.
They were an earth-shatteringly good band, and when I first heard them was in 1967 at the Windsor Jazz Festival, and they were in one of the smaller stages. They weren't on the main stage. They were in a big tent on a small stage, and I heard this music. I was like, holy crap, what is this? Because it was Emerson,
Yeah.
And I went in and I'm like going, oh my God, they blew me away, man.
Wow.
They blew me away, and I'd never heard anything like that on the Hammond organ, Keith Emerson, with all that classical training, And it was like, it changed my whole world. I was like, and I used to go see them every week in the Marquee Club. They couldn't even pull a crowd because no one was hip to them. And
they were kind of progressive for that.
Oh
time.
yeah, very progressive music.
Very
Check them out.
I
You
will.
won't be disappointed.
I will. I'm gonna.
Fabulous band.
Well, Emerson. Emerson. I love the Hammond organ, of course. That'll be
Yeah.
my next keyboard will be the Hammond.
Yeah, I love Hammond. Man. I love him. Listen to Brian Auger as well. He's a great player.
Brian Order.
Brian Auger, AUG.
Okay.
E11. He's the guy that played with Baldry for years. You know.
Okay.
I could ramble on about this crap all night, man.
Well, I mean, I could too. I could listen to you all night long. At some point, we will have to wrap this up. And so, what do you want people to know right now about you? And is there anything that you're selling online or streaming? And I'll put all the links below the podcast at the end of the show.
Yeah, I'm not selling anything online musically at all, man.
Okay.
A lot of people have asked me to produce another CD, and I haven't. You know, I'm not really into it right now.
Right.
My life is so full with other things. You know, I've not been between you and I've been a bit disillusioned with music for a little while.
I got you.
You know, disillusioned with the business in general.
Yeah.
You know, the music business always sucked in certain respects. You know,
Yes.
as much as we love to play, the industry is a screwed up industry,
It really is.
and so I haven't really been too involved in putting new music out there. But you know, once in a while I'll get in my studio and I'll write a few things, but not very often right now. But that'll come back, you know.
Well, you know, I got that impression when I was digging you up there. I said, well, what's Clarke doing now? You know, well, he's got his printing business, he's still playing and all that. And I kind of figured that, you know, well, heck, man, you can only do it for so long, so hard, like you've done it. And
Yeah.
You get around. Even what am I? I'm only 59, and I'm already starting to think, man, you know, I just want to lay back, do some recording, just have some fun.
Yeah.
But I think you, like me, hit it so hard for so long, and you get a little bit disillusioned with the business, the way the business is. Nobody wants to give you the money that we deserve, you know.
Yeah.
Our song, we write a song, and what do we do with it, right? Are they going to give us a fraction of a penny for every download? How many?
Yeah.
10 million downloads to see any money.
That's the thing. It's ridiculous, you know. And you know, for me, I pretty much got ripped off my whole career by unscrupulous management companies, you know, and that's just a lot of people did, you know. You know, all of the great, like Chuck Berry, all those guys, they all got ripped off. They all got ripped off, terribly ripped off. The Beatles got ripped off.
Right.
You know, everybody ripped them all off. You know,
Well, and that's been the corruption of the music business since day one, right?
yeah,
You
exactly.
go back to Cadillac Records, you know, I watched a little documentary or the movie on that, and you know, Chuck Berry was under Cadillac Records. And, you know, and there's always that person at the top, you know, taking everything, and then keeping you happy, give you a Cadillac and put you on the road and you make a few bucks. But when that thing starts spinning and the advertisers jump in, there's a lot of money. Where's it going? Where's it going? It's going to somebody, and they're not talking. They're not talking.
No.
And then here's this poor guy down here doing the tours, working his ass off, and he's the reason this guy's got the money. And it's been like that, like you said, since the Beatles.
From day one, man.
And it's really sad, and I don't know if we can change the way the industry is today. I remember when download streaming became popular. I remember back in, what was that shared site? They were stealing all the music. They got busted and they shut them down. The shared music site.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I can't remember.
You know, people would do a song and then they would share it and then everyone would download it. And I think, I gotta be honest, I downloaded an entire discography when Michael Jackson passed away. I think I downloaded every song he ever did for free.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have been able to do that, but that's how the industry's been for a long time.
Yeah, I remember that website. Well, yeah, they shut them down.
Napster. It was a Napster and a couple
Napster. Yep, you got it, man.
And
Yeah.
a bunch of others jumped on, and then Metallica. Remember when Metallica jumped up and said, "Whoa,
Mhm.
this is wrong. People
Yeah.
are listening to our music and they're downloading it for free." So
Yeah.
and now here we are today, and I know this for a fact because I go and check out my streaming and what's going on with my songs. Are you kidding me? Unless I'm Kanye West, or unless I'm Jay-Z, or unless, you know, one of these huge rappers up there getting 10 million hits a day, or you got to get a few million a day to see any money in the streaming world.
Exactly. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
And if you're someone like, you know, me, and I work my butt off writing songs, But I'm not. There's a handful of people, well, in the rapper world and the hip hop world, they're making a lot of money,
Mhm.
and some in the country world, of course. And then we got blues, right? And wouldn't it be nice to just kick up the blues, man? Just,
Wouldn't it be?
and I love Stapleton. I've been listening to Tennessee Whiskey, Stapleton, some of the new blues stuff, and I sit and play my guitar, and I love it. But I want to go back. I want to play some more blues.
Yeah, man.
You got me excited. So we're going to wrap up. Is there anything you want to say to the audience before we close out?
Well, I appreciate anyone that listened in and wants to check it out. Check out my website, mickclarke.net. And I hope you
MickClarke.net.
appreciate the music, you know.
Yeah, and there'll be some links below for you, Mick. And man, it's really great to meet you, man. And
You too, Dean. And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
you're absolutely welcome. I'm honored to meet you, and I'm honored to have you on my show. And I can't wait to get in there and mix it up and throw some songs in, and hopefully some more images of you. I want to put some more pictures in there. So thank you so much for doing the podcast show, and have
Thanks,
a great night.
Dean. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
All the best.
Good night.
Good night.